No one saw it coming. One tiny kitten, barely old enough to fend for himself, was forced to make an impossible decision. A choice that would change his sister's life forever, but at a terrible cost. This story isn't just about survival. It's about love, loss, and the ultimate act of courage. Keep watching, because what this kitten did in his final moments will break your heart. It's often said that the purest kind of love is the one that's willing to sacrifice everything. But no one expects that kind of sacrifice from a kitten, a small, fragile life that's only just begun. Yet sometimes the smallest of us are the bravest. Today we're telling you the emotional, heart-wrenching story of a kitten named Max and his little sister Bella. What Max did in his final moments is something that will leave you speechless, because no one saw it coming.
Muitas vezes dizem que o amor mais puro é aquele que está disposto a sacrificar tudo. Mas ninguém espera esse tipo de sacrifício de um gatinho, uma vida pequena e frágil que mal começou. Ainda assim, às vezes, os menores de nós são os mais corajosos. Hoje, vamos contar a história emocionante e comovente de um gatinho chamado Max e sua irmãzinha Bella. O que Max fez em seus últimos momentos vai te deixar sem palavras, porque ninguém esperava isso.
From the moment Bella was born, Max took on the role of protector. He watched over her with a sense of responsibility that was far beyond his age. It was as if he understood on some deep level that she needed him, that without him, she wouldn't survive. And Bella, with her wide, innocent eyes, relied on him completely. Wherever Max went, Bella followed. If Max found food, Bella ate first. If there was danger, Max was always the first to face it. The world around them was unforgiving. They were tiny, vulnerable, and at the mercy of the elements. Cold nights left them shivering, huddled together for warmth. Days were spent dodging cars, avoiding predators, and desperately searching for scraps of food in alleyways. It wasn't the life they deserved, but it was the only one they knew. But as tough as life was, they had each other. That bond between them, the unbreakable love Max had for his sister, was what kept them going. It was Max's quiet strength that gave Bella the courage to face each day. But then came the night that changed everything. It was late autumn when the storm hit. The sky turned an ominous shade of gray, the air heavy with the promise of something terrible. Max had been on edge all day, sensing the danger that was looming. He led Bella to the only shelter he could find, a small, run-down shed on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it would keep them dry. Or so Max thought. As the wind picked up, howling like a wild animal, and the rain began to pour, Max and Bella curled up in the corner of the shed trying to stay warm. But it wasn't long before the real danger revealed itself. The rain didn't stop. Hour after hour, it fell harder and faster, turning the dirt outside the shed into thick mud. Max could feel the cold dampness creeping into their shelter, but he didn't realize just how bad it was about to get. The water came slowly at first, a small trickle seeping under the door. Max noticed it, but didn't worry too much. They were inside, after all. Safe. Or so he thought. Bella was fast asleep beside him, her tiny body pressed against his for warmth. But as the minutes passed, the water began to rise, faster than Max could have anticipated. Within an hour, the floor of the shed was flooded. Max tried to nudge Bella awake, but she was so small, so tired, and the storm outside was terrifying. She curled up tighter, unwilling to move. Max's heart raced. He knew they had to leave, but Bella was too scared. The wind roared outside, and every loud crash of thunder made her whimper in fear. Her little legs wouldn't carry her, her paws frozen in terror. The water continued to rise, creeping higher and higher. Soon, it was up to Max's ankles. The cold bit into his fur, but he ignored it. He had to find a way out, quickly. His eyes darted around the shed, looking for an escape. That's when he saw it. A small opening in the wooden wall, barely big enough for them to fit through. It was their only chance. But the hole was too high. Bella, as small and terrified as she was, would never be able to reach it on her own. Max nudged her again, trying to encourage her to stand, but Bella was paralyzed with fear. She meowed softly, her wide eyes looking up at Max, full of trust. She believed in him completely, even now, in the middle of a disaster. She was depending on him to save her. Max knew what he had to do. His heart pounded in his chest, and every instinct screamed at him to run, to save himself. But Max ignored it. He couldn't leave Bella behind. Not now. Not ever. The water was rising fast, now up to their chests. Max acted quickly, positioning himself underneath Bella, using all his strength to lift her onto his back. She was light, but in the cold and chaos of the storm, it felt like the weight of the world. Max's legs trembled as he balanced her on his back, his muscles straining under the effort. But he didn't give up. With Bella clinging to his fur, Max dragged them both toward the small hole in the wall. The water was up to his neck now, cold and relentless, but he pushed on. Every step was a battle, his tiny body fighting against the rising flood. When he finally reached the wall, he lifted Bella as high as he could, using his last bit of strength to push her through the hole. She scrambled, her tiny claws gripping the wood, and finally, with a desperate leap, she was outside. Bella was safe, but Max wasn't. Max tried to follow, but the water was too high. It surged around him, pulling him down, stealing the breath from his lungs. He was so close, just a few inches away from the opening, but he couldn't reach it. His legs were too tired, his body too cold. Max looked up, through the hole where Bella had escaped. He could see her, safe and dry, meowing for him. She didn't understand why he wasn't coming. She didn't know that her brother had given everything for her. Max let out one final soft meow. His body was weak, the water too strong. But in that last moment, there was no fear in his eyes, only love. His sister was safe. That was all that mattered. And then, Max was gone. The water swept him away into the darkness. Outside, Bella meowed into the storm, waiting for her brother. She didn't understand what had happened. She didn't know why he wasn't there beside her anymore. But she waited and waited until the storm passed and the sun began to rise. She kept calling for him, her tiny voice filled with confusion and sorrow. But Max never came. Max's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Because of him, Bella survived. She was found the next morning by a kind woman who had been searching for her lost cat. When she saw Bella, soaked and shivering, she scooped her up and took her home, giving her a warm bed, food, and the love she so desperately needed. But Bella never forgot her brother. Every time it rained, every time she heard the sound of thunder, she would curl up in a corner, waiting for Max to come and comfort her. But he never did. His memory lived on in her heart, a reminder of the love and sacrifice he had made for her. Max may be gone, but his legacy of love and bravery lives on. He gave everything to protect the one he loved most, and in doing so, he taught us all a powerful lesson about the true meaning of family. If Max's story moved you, if you believe in the power of love and sacrifice, please hit that subscribe button and join our community. We have many more stories like this, stories of animals who teach us what it means to love unconditionally. You won't want to miss what's coming next.